Ladies and gentlemen, beloved friends, welcome in our event today. It is the last day of the 17th Cyprus International Film Festival, and in collaboration with a new established chapter, Women in Film and Television in Cyprus, we invited some special friends that I'm going to present you in a while to exchange ideas about the arts, about peace, and about noble goals that all of them are in their portfolio and their life. I would like to tell you a few words about the organization, Women in Film and Television. Is a charitable foundation adhering to a global network. The first Women in Film network it was established in LA in the 70s as a reaction to male dominance in the film industry. Today, there are about 50 WIFT Women in Film and Television chapters and WIFT partner chapters on 6 continents, all working for the same goal, gender balance in the film industry. More than 13,000 WIFT members and friends are working together towards a common goal to support and promote the careers and achievements equally of all professionals who work in the film and television industries and the media, along with the rest of the audiovisual media. WIFT Cyprus friends, including all sexes, all genders, have direct access to a wide range of networking services, job opportunities, training programs, consulting services, and financing sources aimed at the completion of film productions. WIFT Cyprus is a platform that facilitates networking among Cypriot professionals and illuminates their artistic achievements. The 3 pillars that inspire the work of WIFT International and all of us are connection, connect all members, knowledge, share knowledge, experiences, and industry information, and visibility, be seen and acknowledged. So, we have a very, very special guest today. Is a woman with big energy. She comes from Asia. It's the first time she traveled to Europe to be in the Cyprus International Film Festival. I'm going to tell a few words about her and I will invite her on stage. So this lady is an extreme rally driver, freelance automotive journalist, 2 times TEDx speaker and a passionate content creator. She has recently launched her video and audio podcast, which is based on sports, psychology and motivation. As an extreme rally driver, she has won many Indian national rally championships in her category and many autocrosses in various categories. This woman is the first professional driver for Mercedes-Benz Lux Drive and the first professional woman rally driver for Mahindra and Virtue Rally Team. She has been recognized with awards such as the ETB Rank Equity Influencer Marketing Award, Iconic Woman Leader in Sports as an enabler of change, Best Female Driver, Radio On Superwoman, as the Asian Achievement Award for Outstanding Work in Extreme Rallying, Delphi Women Leadership Award, Kel Guarav Award, Iconic Women Creating a Better World for All, Peak Life Women Inspire Award, Women Super Achiever Award, Distinguished Women Achiever Inspira Honors, amongst others. So this lady is here with us and she is Garima Avtar. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for this lovely introduction. Thank you, Petra.
Thank you. Thank you for being with us.
Understand here?
Yes.
Yeah. Good morning, everyone, and thank you so much, Petra, for this amazing introduction and for having this discussion.
You want to stand? Have
Sure.
Yes.
So, I mean, when you think of motorsports, what do you perceive? I mean, somebody who's brave, who is fearless, who is glamorous, rich, loaded. Okay, but I'm brave, fearless is fine, but not glamorous, not rich. See, I come from a very small town in India, very small town girl, from a very conservative traditional family. And back then, when my dad was teaching me how to drive when I was a little girl, neither he nor I ever imagined that motorsports can ever be an option for me, career option for me. But yeah, I just happened to go for a rally without, kind of just for fun. And actually, I never realized how it became my calling and career. And actually, I started very late in life. Generally, champions, they start very early on, and by the time they are 30, they have done and seen it all. And here I was in my 30s, I got into a sport which requires not just physical and mental strength, but also, huge financial support. And there's nobody from my family or friends who's remotely associated with motorsports. And in fact, my friends, my family, out of concern, they, kind of advised me against it because motorsports is inherently a dangerous sport, full of risks. And so, I mean, basically there were no mentors at that time, and it was completely an uncharted territory for me, but I was pretty determined.
I think, hopefully.
So it was a completely uncharted territory, and I was very determined. I wanted to, pursue my passion, and in fact, I was in a full-time job. And when I got into rally driving, it was just a, like a weekend passion. But I wanted to get full-time into it, and I realized that it has a lot of potentials, that I can, do so much in this sport. And also, motorsports is male-dominated sport, and
I'm sorry.
No
I'm sorry.
No worries.
Yeah.
So
I'm sorry. Θα έχουμε, αν δεν έχουμε μικρόφωνο, πώς το βλέπετε, θα έχουμε.
Ναι.
Πώς δεν το είπαμε. Και προτζέκτορ. Εντάξει, αν ήταν τόσο δύσκολο μπορούσαμε να αλλάξουμε διάθεση, να πάμε στη διπλανή, αλλά τώρα... Συγγνώμη. Νομίζω αφήστε το. Αφήστε το. Ναι.
Yeah, so coming back to where I was. So I was in a full-time, like a stable job, and I realized that motorsports had a lot of potential, but for me to be able to quit my job, it would have been, getting into a very unknown territory where full of risks, and I didn't know how much, though it had a lot of potential, but I didn't know how much in that area. So
better finish.
Yeah. Κορίτσια, αφήστε το. Γι' αυτό δεν θα μας χρεώσετε την αίθουσα.
So yeah, I think, so I wanted to give myself a chance, and I thought I quit my job. And I have learned, actually, we tend to hold ourselves back, We know what we want to do with our lives, but we, sometimes we don't cheer for ourselves. We have apprehensions, we think we are not good enough, and I think it's so important for us to give ourselves a chance and, cheer for ourselves also, and even follow our dreams and not, be very apprehensive about it. So I quit my job and I got full-time into rallying and motorsports, and I also got, I started doing things around cars and around driving, and I create content for supercars. So I always, sometimes I used to dream that I would have these fancy supercars at my home, and I would, kind of drive them, keep them for a few days, like other journalists would have. So now, since I've become a freelance journalist myself, auto journalist, I have these supercars, Ferraris and Lamborghinis and these AMGs and all these fancy cars coming to my place, and they're there for a few days. I drive around with them, and create content and videos with them. So what I mean to say is, if you have a dream, you must pursue it, follow it, no matter what age you start, no matter whatever apprehensions you have. I think it's so important to follow your instincts and achieve. I'm sure it's possible to achieve your dreams. So thanks so much. Petra,
teması değil yani kullanım. Çünkü her kullanılmış oldu filmler.
Well, thank you, Garima, for sharing your story with us. I would like to invite Balman. She's an educator, she's a Cypriot woman and a filmmaker, and we had her beautiful film during this festival. Please, Man, come with us to tell us, to share with us your inspiration to enter the film industry and your motivation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's really nice being here. So I was born in Cyprus, and Cyprus is a place that had lots of negative memories, wars, conflicts in the recent history. So I was born after the war and conflict, after 1974, after the division of the island. But it doesn't mean that I wasn't affected. So I was the generation, I was one of the, let's say, members of the generation who was, all the traumas were transferred. So of course this affected me, like the other Cypriots who were born in this island. And so I always feel the responsibility to, let's say, contribute to reunification of the island, to live as Cypriots in a peaceful way, to change things. Don't accept what happened in the past, but to change things. So having that responsibility, feeling that responsibility, I was always being active with the intercommunal activities. And after my university studies, or let's say during my university studies, since I was a visual learner myself and I was really interested in the cinema, and I was always watching the, let's say, backstage videos, not only the films at the cinema, but how they were shooting the videos. I did a short filmmaking course at the London Film Academy. And then I returned back to Cyprus, and I started a job which was the institution's name was Committee on Missing Persons. We were looking for the remains all the missing people who were missing in 1963, 1964, and 1974. So there are 2,002 missing people in total on this island. So I was working there for 15 years. And it was not a job I wasn't considering as a job. It was something that I was listening people's stories, the stories of war, stories of displacement, how they lost their home, their homeland, how they lost their loved ones, their families, and they are looking to find the remains, at least to have a proper burial. So of course, I started this job when I was 22, and it was a very emotional and it was very, let's say, life-changing thing for me. So I was working as the focal point of the missing persons' relatives, but also I was working in the area that I was talking with the perpetrators, people who did the killings, who did the burials for the hygienic reasons as well, not because they were just, let's say, did the killings, but trying to find the burial places, because we were working with the oral history. We don't have anything in the archives. So that also, I think, triggered my way of listening stories. And I also feel responsibility to forward stories to people, because I was listening hundreds, thousands of stories, but it's not fair to keep everything for me. So in the background, I was enrolled in the filmmaking, in a sense that with different organizations we were making short films. Let's say we were recording documentaries, but not in a professional way. So I think this combined together the things that I was listening during my job, and the way that I want to tell stories to people, and that's how I find myself that actually I am producing documentaries. I can't say that I'm not a professional filmmaker, but I really feel that in Cyprus the authorities are suppressing the stories, the narratives of people, and they created some official narratives that actually they want everyone to believe. But when you really speak with the people, you see that there are narratives which say that people didn't have any problems in real, but the problems were created with the outside sources. So actually, whatever I produce up until now, they're against the official narratives. So I was trying to dig in, find whatever were suppressed by the officials, and try to show people that actually there are this type of stories in Cyprus that we can actually stick on and try to reunify this island, try to get rid of all those barricades and all the stuff and the armies. So I can tell you a few examples. One of the latest films that I've done, which was screened also at the festival, and thank you for that. Its name is Beyond History Education. So I was trying to show that on both sides of the divide, two authorities are trying to use education as the tool of propaganda, and to show each other that they're enemies. And I interviewed Turkish Cypriots and Greek Cypriots who were born after 75, and they were telling their traumatic experiences during their school time. But I was also using the real-time examples of 2018, 19, 20, the recent examples, that actually what were told by the people who were born on after 1975, they are still happening today. I was always, this is one thing, one of the other films is, I can say, is Olivia, which we are having screenings now. It's the story about 3 Cypriot women. I'm always, I have always this value of gender equality. So giving voice to women is always important. And in Cyprus, women are real peacemakers because women are suffered from the war and conflicts. The majority of the missing people were men. Majority of people who were dead were men. But women had to continue their lives in a very difficult way because they were waiting for their missing people to come back, and they are the ones who are displaced and have to adapt to a new house, to a new city. So women suffered a lot. So I always have this feeling that we have to give voice to women because all the stories were told by the men. So Olivia was about this. I also have another documentary which was named Together. It's about the Armenian Cypriots in Cyprus. Because we have Armenian Cypriots, although 2 authorities are not really accepting this, Armenians were displaced at the Armenian genocide from Anatolia, and they went all around the world, and of course they came to Cyprus because it's one of the closest places. And so they settled here in the neighborhoods where Turkish Cypriots were living. And in 1960s, when all these Taksim and division and partition things arise, Turkish Cypriots kicked out Armenian Cypriots from the neighborhoods. So they had to lost their homes twice. So of course this was never written in the history books, and you can never hear it at the schools or any other places. But I want to give voice to the Armenian Cypriots who suffered twice actually. So that's how I did the interviews, and I tried to select a woman actually. So majority of the interviewees were women. So they were telling how they were living actually happily in their neighborhoods and what happened afterwards. So I don't want to take your time, but this is what I'm doing. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mai. Very interesting things you mentioned, also about the Armenian genocide, and I didn't know about Cyprus and the Armenians. I know that this happened in Greece also, and he had to move from Piraeus, then to Crete, and live again, come back to Athens, and try always they miss homes and they want to go back. I would like to invite Koukkides Procopiou. She works as a consultant on the Turkey-Cyprus project of the Europe and Central Asia program of the International Crisis Group. She is a senior fellow and member of the advisory board of the Cyprus Center for European and International Affairs, University of Nicosia. Her research and published academic work focuses on foreign policy, inclusive security, and gender. An accredited Cyprus expert for the World Bank, she has also worked on Liberia, Ukraine, Georgia, Moldova, and Turkmenistan via projects run by UN Women, the OSCE, Interpeace, CMI, Mati Ahtisaari Peace Foundation, Helsinki, the Perez Center for Peace and Innovation, SEED Center for Sustainable Peace and Democratic Development, as well as projects funded by the State Department, the German and the Dutch foreign ministries. She often participates and contributes as expert in working groups run by the European Commission, the European Parliament, the Council of Europe, and the Union for the Mediterranean. Her most recent contribution has been to the Hans Seidel Foundation, Munich. She is a founding member of the Israel Hellenic Forum. She is also a member of the UN Senior Women Talent Pipeline Group based in New York. Additionally, having served for more than a decade in senior management positions in the international corporate sector, she is currently a member of ExxonMobil's Global Women in Management team based in Washington, D.C., and a mentor with the Cherry Blair Foundation for Women in London. An active member of civil society, she received the iconic Women Changing the World Award by the Women Economic Forum International Summit in New Delhi in 2017. So Anna, please come on stage. It's such an incredible biographical note with more pages. It is our honor to be here with us.
Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you.
When I first received this invitation to be here today, I was wondering, what can I really say about film and television? How am I relevant to what is happening today? It's a commendable, obviously, experience that is organized by Petra, Terzi, but how can I sort of be useful to the discourse, to the narrative? And then it occurred to me, because I trained as a historian and I can't escape from myself, I'm always a historian. And when you go back to delving into what the meaning of the word history is, of course it comes from the Greek word histori. What does histori mean? It doesn't mean to tell stories only, it means to inquire, to ask the questions. So what is common between many people in the room who are journalists or filmmakers or scriptwriters or playwrights and a historian is that we both get to ask questions. And it is very, very important who asks the questions, what questions are being asked, why are the questions being asked, and then what exactly do you do with the answers? So similarly, in both our lines of business, if I can call them that, we both come up with narratives. And Mina very, very clearly said that, we always have established narratives propagated by governments, by states, and this is what governments do. But it's our job as historians, as journalists, as filmmakers, to pose questions to those narratives and inquire a little bit deeply and also contribute to the narrative in our own ways. I've worked with many news agencies as a commentator, as an analyst. I've done documentaries with teams of filmmakers and journalists, my little contribution as an expert. And I always felt that when I was invited to speak on a TV panel, or I was invited to speak at a conference, or I was invited on a news program, I never got to ask the questions. I had to respond to the questions that I was given. Is that a bad thing? Necessarily not. But then I wanted to ask my own questions, and that's why I started my podcast, which went on for about a year. I managed to produce 50 episodes, plus one live streaming episode as well, and it amassed something like 500,000 views on Facebook. And I was shocked. I was like, who actually is interested in what is on this content that is being produced? And what was the content? It was my conscious decision, among other things, because there was some historical issues talked about by experts. I only invited experts. That was my niche. So I don't want people's opinions, I want people's knowledge. Their opinions should be based on research and should be based on knowledge, or their very own life experience of a particular topic. So who did I give a platform to? To the first woman and only woman photojournalist in Cyprus. Katia Christodoulou had been to all kinds of war zones, conflict areas, and being a woman, it was a very particular experience that she had to share with the audience. I gave a platform to the first female journalist in Cyprus, who was also one of the people heavily involved in the Doga struggle against the British Empire in the 1950s. So that was quite unique. I gave the platform to share her experiences to the president of the women motorbikers in Cyprus. And we also started talking about issues, historical issues, that the mainstream media weren't very much interested in and couldn't really handle, I think, with the same sensitivity that a woman could handle. And of course, I'm referring to the rapes that happened in 1974. And it took a woman member of parliament to ask the question in the parliamentary committee, where is the restitution in the government budget for the female victims of the 1974 war? Why is there any compensation for them? Why are we giving monthly benefits to men? Where are all the women? And then she was sort of told this is a hush-hush situation because the female victims they were women who were raped. And that constitutes 0.5% of the Greek Cypriot female population. That's a huge amount of women, a huge number of women. So she told me, and I've got the podcast for this, she said, I came out of that meeting and I sort of just threw it out when the journalists were out. She was the president of the Human Rights Committee. And she said the journalists were there waiting for statements, as they usually do. And I just threw it there to the media that we were considering instituting restitution for female victims of the war. And then she said, I started getting calls from women who said, I was raped. My cousin was raped. My daughter was raped. The legislation in Cyprus, 1974, and the church had to turn a blind eye, changed regarding abortion. So a lot of my feminist friends say, oh, you've got very, very progressive legislation regarding abortion in Cyprus. Why? Because the women had to go and have abortions because they were systematically and methodically raped for months by the Turkish army. And when you read the Fawcett report by the Council of Europe, you just want to throw up. I can't stand it. And nobody wanted to talk about it. So female MP started getting these calls, talks to a female minister. And she says, these women want to talk in confidentiality. They don't want to go through the bureaucratic procedures of people going through their personal files, finding out the personal details. A lot of them said they never talked to anyone. Their husbands don't know, their children don't know. So female MP, female minister get a female technocrat. Only one person to be dealing with these applications. And then a female journalist started this discussion on one of the mainstream media, and then it was subject closed. So we did a podcast together, and it was viewed in thousands. And she told me that she started getting calls again by people women not wanting to get compensation in money, but at least their plight to be recognized. So what is our job as historians, as academics? A lot of the time, a lot of people say, why do you waste your time doing public outreach? Why do you waste your precious academic time doing podcasts or going on TV? Just write papers, research papers. That's how you get promotions in academia. You don't have to communicate anything to the outside world. Academics shouldn't really care about that. But I think it's our responsibility and it's our duty to train our students to ask the questions, to make ourselves ask the questions, and also educate, quote unquote, the journalists, the playwrights, the filmmakers, to come along and ask the same questions too. Because the power of film, the power of television, the power of photojournalism, the power of words is an amazing tool that we all have. And when the governments try to close subjects, we have the power of opening them. So I would close by just saying the following. Very recently in Cyprus, two very dear friends of mine, Magdalena Zira, who's a director, and Nevi Antoniadi, who's an actress, who's an actor, they started doing research for the last 2 years, collecting the experience of the Women March Home movement. Back in the late 80s, early 90s, I was a student and I was part of the fourth march. these women decided, because there were no checkpoints which were open, the Turkish army kept the checkpoints closed. So these women could not walk and go back home. So they started the Women Walk Home movement, Γυναίκες επιστρέφουν. Nothing about their efforts is ever taught in history classes among the Greek Cypriots. In this ad-verbatim playwright that they came up with, Nedi and Magdalena wrote, with the testimonies of these women, you see very clearly how the journalists made fun of them. And I remember, I was a student, I remember reading that stuff in the newspapers and being very angry what was written about them. They were ridiculed, and the mainstream media got orders never to write anything about them or just write things that would destroy their demonstrations and their march. When Ozal was visiting Athens to visit Papandreou, they went to the Acropolis and they chained themselves to the Acropolis. And they said, Ozal cannot walk the Acropolis if we cannot walk our Salamis, which is in the occupied area. There was nothing in the Cyprus media. Nothing. Nothing. It wasn't, there was no social media at the time. There was only a government broadcasting corporation at the time. And there were newspapers who were very tightly, let's say, given narratives by the government that these women were crazy. And these women would be destroying the goodwill between the negotiating sides, who've been negotiating since forever at no avail. So it was for me very important. I took my daughter to see that play. I took my mother to see that play. My godmother was involved in those marches. She said, I cannot go and see that because there is a lot of trauma. They were beaten up, they were arrested by the Turkish army. She said, I cannot, it took me years to bypass that trauma. I cannot see it again. But I'm glad that there is an effort being made. These women asked the questions, they got the ad verbatim responses from the women who were involved, and they're now making an effort to get the play staged for school students to see. So it was women like you in the audience today who decided to ask the questions, get the answers, and then make sure those answers reached an audience. So it is very important. The seventh art is not a flimsy art. It's a very powerful medium to send messages. So let's all be very responsible and very conscious of what messages we send out. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Anna, so much. This is what filmmaking is about, research and questions to be answered, to make the psychograph of the character, of the personality who are going to present, and this character has to interact with our story, and so everything is about research, also in documentaries and fiction. You mentioned schools and making stories in schools. I would like to invite the best, as well known as the best educator, awarded, has been awarded as the best educator, is Nikos Galanis from Greece. He's here with us. I met him in Napoli film festival, and we had some films that he created with his students. So Nikos, please come along to tell us why you have been awarded as the world's best educator.
Thank you, Petra.
Thank you for being
pleased
here.
to meet so interesting people today. I was awarded as an best educator in Greece the past year, and awarded a Global Teacher Award the previous year also. And the main reason is making short films with our students. I was working in a very small school, two teachers only and 24 students, and the school is in the municipality of Epidavros in Greece, close to Napoli, and we have a lot of history, historical places, and as the ancient theater in Epidavros, and amongst others we did in the school was making a short film, making short films about social issues. We made short films about Cyprus, that is in our film festival these days, about the refugee issue have in Greece till today, the women empowerment, traffic accidents, it's a major issue in Greece, and making short films with our students is like a procedure that children like it a lot, but we as teachers, we want two main goals to succeed. The first goal is to teach children about these social issues, that it's difficult just to read books or be inside the classroom. So making short film, it's making art is always a great tool to succeed in this goal. And the second goal that I believe it's more important is sending messages to the society. I believe the society is always open in listening to kids and the message that kids want to send. I won't speak a lot because we will watch something. Last summer we went to the ancient theater of Petra, a very historical and holy place, one of the most well-known monuments in Greece, and we had the opportunity to shoot a film there because of the last year the war that began in Ukraine, and we went to teach children about peace, which is today's issue also, and we have art for tool, so we made a short film. We combined the theme of peace with a place that we saw the film, the ancient theater. So you will see the students saying words, famous or not so famous words from ancient Greeks, from philosophers and politicians in the ancient Greece that speak about peace. I don't remember if there are English subtitles. I sent you, I think, English subs. But you will see the students inside this historical place talking about peace through the words of ancient Greeks. And the kids loved it, of course. The procedure is always great with kids. And the film is not published yet. It's wandering around film festivals. And we will have the opportunity to watch this right now.
Last year, your subject was about bullying or
violence. We had about bullying, about the independence of Greece 200 years. We've made a lot of short films, 1 or 2 every year. The first film was about refugee issue in 2016, when thousands of refugees and families and children were coming in the islands in the Aegean. And the first film was about that, with only 6-year-old students. And then the journey began, and it is a very nice journey. I heard about Anna's story, and I was wandering around Nicosia these days, and you always have the feeling, and what Mina said about the feeling that you have when you wander around these places and you see the barricades and the barriers, and you got a street that you cannot pass to continue your walk. And even if I'm not from Cyprus, and I believe everyone who comes here have this feeling and is traumatized, let's say, about the whole story. So to finish my presence here, that I want to say that our goal as an educator, as a school teacher, is to talk about peace and to have the seed to the children to maybe build a better society, and I don't know if it is utopia, but maybe less of wars and more peace among us. We will watch the movie now.
Thank you. I don't know about the sound, how it
Yeah.
will be.
I hope.
Okay,
Let's all hope and pray. Thank you a lot.
Let's see the sound. I don't know, maybe. Because this is and our hope to have a better world. So on. So that's thank you so much. Hope. Λοιπόν, yes, I think media and arts have a common goal to be all together, to have love and peace, and to stay in peace, and create, and be creative and inspired. Λοιπόν, Anna Tsiarta, she's from Cyprus, she's a filmmaker. She deals with documentaries mostly, but also she makes documentaries about education and children. Please come with us to tell us how you inspire the children and the present and the future world of ours.
Thank you, Petra. Wow, it's whatever I've heard until now, and so it's amazing. It reminds me of that we are all the same kind of spirits here in this room, and I believe dearly that hope is out there. Hope is each one of you. And I'm amazed to see all these different, aspects of work being done, even on the island that I have no idea about. So I'm sure you don't know much about me, so I'm going to do a brief introduction. I've worked with film as a freelancer, as a producer, as a director. I studied film in LA, I studied philosophy in San Francisco, and I studied philosophy and pedagogy in Athens, and psychology. So I have, let's say, some academic background, but also an artist background. And after about 20 years that I've been working, I think I managed to bring all of this together in schools. One of the first films that I made that really shifted my mind on perspective, and that goes back to what Mina was talking about, was a documentary called In This Waiting, that I started filming around 2008. It was completed in 2011, and it was about this the stories of the relatives of the missing in action persons of both sides of the divide. And this brings me back to Anna's comment on history and research, and how important it is to ask the right questions at the right time. And about some kind of anger you felt about the suppression of, and Mina felt it, of course, too, and probably Nikos and the rest of you here, the suppression of truth. So that's how it started. When some of the remains were returning back to the relatives, there was just a very small, very small advertisement in the newspapers, or a very small, very minor announcement in the media. And I was wondering, why? What is going on? I mean, we've been... I haven't lived the traumas of war, but I've, like the rest of you, have lived it through second generation. And I was wondering, why isn't anybody talking about this? I mean, it was the early beginnings. Why the politicians are not talking about this? So that's how it started, and I started talking to Greek Cypriots who lost their people, and their people were returning to them in small boxes and bones. And then started talking to Turkish Cypriots who had similar but different, in a way, routes through this experience. And in this waiting was produced and was shown to festivals. It had a lot of strong reactions in both sides for different reasons. I'm not gonna go into that. We can see some clips later if you want. I'm gonna move on a few years later. That I've been working with education, and this experience with that particular documentary shifted my mind thinking on, like, how do we get every student to research on these subjects, recent history, but not only recent history, everything that affects us and everything that makes us a citizen today. And I introduced a program in the schools that is for all educational levels, called Recording Memory, where students do documentary productions. We started with documentaries on history, on the occupied land, on the liberation struggles, and then we moved to documentaries on sustainable development and heritage, and every year we're adding a new theme. So it's amazing to see. This has been going on for 3 years. This is the 4th year that we're running this audiovisual, let's say, program in schools. At one point, it would be great if we can manage to introduce this to the Turkish Cypriot schools, and we get children to do the same, and then even get them to collaborate, like they do in the, let's say, Imagine program. But it's amazing to see also how children's perspective on narratives and on history and on society in general shifts when they actually work on a project. I don't know if we can quickly show, just to show you a few visuals of maybe
Up to 1 minute.
up to 1 minute. No, I'm only gonna show. I'm not gonna show a video. I'm just gonna show the programs, so you get a reference of the
I have a
visual.
question.
Yes.
Do you have to deposit, to declare the script that you are going to shoot with the children in the authorities?
No,
You have
that's the amazing thing, that they can research and they can decide on the topic. They can, ask whoever they want, whatever questions they want, and they're responsible for putting it together.
Because in the past, in the recent past, I think there was from the Ministry of Culture. There is you have to take their permission in order to document and to finance, to be financed.
But this is education. This is student films, actually. So you don't need a permission, from the Ministry of Culture to do a student film. You need a permission from the students and from the students' parents that they allow their students to be there and do this work, and they allow their work to be seen.
Okay, thank you. Your program.
Of the program called Recording Memory. Maybe we skip to the here we see that just a few data with teachers and students involved, and I love this. Which one? This photo there. It's summer it's July. Students are not supposed to be in school, but they're there every day, and they're trying to put their story together. It was also during the COVID situation where things weren't really happening as they should be. So they went to school every day, like early in the morning, and their parents were also happy because they had somewhere to go where they could be productive and doing work. And they're actually in the teacher's room. So they occupied the teacher's room for the summer, and they were working on their film. This was one of the first films. I think it went to a couple of contests in Cyprus and in Greece also, and it's been translated in English, and they're showing it abroad. This one, yeah. So it's this is a poster. It's it means socks of two different kinds. And it's the story of two sons of missing persons in action. I'm not going to go into the story. Just looking into the pictures of children researching and writing and working together and telling us amazing things about their collaboration that, I never thought that I could work with that girl, but, through the procedure, it was amazing that, I thought of her to be different than what she is. Or this was the best history class we ever had in our lives. Let's see the other one, which is something, it's a radio and music student contest. Maybe Nikos knows about it. It's called Make It Heard, Kanton Akousti in Greek. We work with partners in Greece for this contest, and this year the contest is based on peace, and of course it's international. Any school can participate in this, and we're inviting all of you who may be having access to schools to let them know about the contest.
Also Greece.
It's contest.europeanschoolradio.eu. Yes. ECOME gives awards. It's been ECOME, Cyprus Pedagogical Institute, and also Greek Educational Radio Television, and of course European School Radio, which is the platform and are the one of the main organizers of the event. And then maybe let's see the next one. This is a student web radio, and this connects with what Anna was saying about how important it is to get their voices out there, and how big is the power of podcasting. So we have this program running where students create radio shows for all different subjects, including peace, sustainability, and citizenship, and all other things that may be taught in class. And this is another way of showing how we can bring the audio-visual and the audio, let's say, arts into school and try to motivate children and have them really being engaged and experiencing learning. I think that's it, yeah. I just wanted you to have like a look of all this. And the film that I did, I don't know if you have time to see any of it, but I'm happy to forward to Petra the link, and then you can all have access to see it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Anna, so much. I would like to invite Mr. Doga and Sahir is the representative from Cyprus Green Action to share some knowledge of his experience all these years in Cyprus and the audiovisual sector.
Thank you.
And
Thank you for inviting me. And thank you for this opportunity to meet your filmmakers and the journalists also, and scriptwriters. As Petra said, I am not a filmmaker, but I am over 70 years old, and every day and every hour and every moment I have done many things. I know what you are doing, I know what it is, but not professionally. I myself also try to do something because I know that communicative power of filmmaking or films are very important. We are working on environment, the subject especially, every issue in environmental issues. And we know that we all living in a jar. Every individual in this room and anywhere in the world are in the same jar. We are in the same jar. And not only the human beings, but also the other living things are important. The world is not belong to all of us as humans. Environmental things, environment doesn't have a nationality, no religion, no boundary, and nothing. It must be considered a whole. Such a small detail in our island. It is very small to be divided. And it is big enough to feed all of us, to live in peace. But the main thing is to live in peace in the world. It starts from individuals, in between individuals, every group of nationalities or whatever you call, and also the countries, also the neighbor countries, or any country in the world. We should live in peace. Otherwise, today is the last day of the meeting of COP, as you follow, I think, 27. It is 27 years now. Every year it's a convention, international under UN. Every year they try where we are going. Because of the climate change, there are many threats. Even it is very short time. I heard many things that are very important that is said here before the speaking person, and everything said is very important. But it is again underlined, should be underlined that we have done all these things to change the climate, and we don't have time, unfortunately, to educate the people to learn the thing and reality and find the solutions. We are the ones who are responsible to change the things. Earth is a special thing. It's like a woman. It is productive. But if you live it rights, because not only we have the rights as humans, the other creatures, other living things, and also the earth has a right that we should consider. And the filmmakers has the responsibility for this also, to show people, because but telling the people they cannot understand sometimes. They should sharpen, they can manage it with films to sharpen their sensitivities. Then, as it is said in the SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals under UN, every issue is important. Gender equality, education, human rights, pollution, every issue, it's 17 issues which should be considered together to solve the problem, and starting today. And yes, every individual should share this responsibility, but filmmakers and the television makers, televisions also has the biggest, I think, responsibility to share it to the other people who are not aware of this, to make them go to inaction. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Well, we have a special guest coming from Italy. This is Beltrami. She's an activist and filmmaker. She founded the Religion Today Film Festival, the first film festival in the world on inter-religious dialogue. She is a representative of Religions for Peace and the FAO, the Agency of United Nations for Food and Water. She started the Women of Faith for Peace experience, and she is part of the Dialogue Commission of the Ordo Fertrum Minorum. She is the CEO of Aurora Vision, advisor for Dhaka Film Festival in Bangladesh, board member of the Benin City Film Festival, and honor member of the House of Wisdom in Grenada. She is married to Alberto Beltrami, singer and composer and adventure companion, and they have two wonderful daughters. So among her traveling, the journey around the world, presenting her endeavors, works and films, is here in Cyprus with us.
Thank you. So I'm really happy to be here. Thank you, Petra, for inviting me. It's always important to meet and share with the women and men who are driven by the same idea of building a better world. It's not a dream, it must be a reality. Even if we are minority, it's the strong minority, and we must be our reality. So I'm also here on Wednesday. It was presented in my new documentary, A Burst of Song, that I filmed in India, in Kolkata. And last week we just received the award number 60, which I'm happy because it deals about giving voice to the voiceless. Oh, thank you. No, during the First World War, my grandmother, she was 15 years old, and with the family, she was deported in Austria. She was deported with all the family, and they said 5 days, and they stayed 5 years. And her father died because there were no medicines for pneumonia. And when they came back, they had no house, nothing left. So the first thing when I started filmmaking and being member of the International Film and History Association, YAMIST, it was 1993, it was a conference, and I found the footage of the camp in Austria from Austrian side, and then when the camp was closed, the footage from Italian side. So I could see the reality that was impossible to represent. From the Austrian side, I saw the camp like a beautiful 5-star hotel. And I said, but my grandmother didn't say it was a 5-star hotel. What was about? And I saw the other footage after the war, when they opened the camp, everyone was starving. Everyone was without hair on head, girls and everything. It was horrible images. So from that day on, I said, I want to use my life to try to represent, not the truth maybe, but as near to the truth as I can. So I started to make impact documentaries. because all our documentaries are impact. They are not just a general documentary, maybe nice, a football player, it's nice, but how can our films create a change? Films made by schools, research and podcast, documentaries. So I just give 2 quick examples of some documentaries I've made, and I saw the impact that they can make. One is called Wells of Hope, and it's about human trafficking from Syrian refugee camps in Arab world, so in Lebanon and Jordan. And we found out we picked one of the main stories. It's a group of women from Muslim, Druze, Christian Maronites and Christian Catholics that together, these Arab women together, are fighting against human trafficking. And making the documentary, we found out the story of a young girl, 15 years old. She was in the camp through Facebook, that came from Turkey, a nice husband, and they had a beautiful celebration of their wedding. But then when she went to Turkey, nobody knew what was happening. So in making the documentary with the Druze activists, we found out at the end what happened. She was taken and then killed and took the parts for organ trafficking. And we found the rest of the body. So the documentary is there to say the story of Shaiman, to go to the camps, to show the girls what's happening if you follow the first one on Facebook or whatever. But then to say to the world, there are these camps. Look what's happening inside these camps. Someone must take a responsibility of what's happening. So the documentary in 2 years went all around the world, and I mean, we are gaining awareness at least. That's how we can make an impact. But then the documentary wants to tell the story. There are Arab women of different religions together who are trying to find the truth and who are creating awareness and who are fighting against human trafficking. So don't close your eyes. There is a big strength, and we have to take it, show it to the world. Then another documentary that created an impact. We filmed again in India with Nina Davuluri for Miss America 2014. And when she became Miss America from Indian origins, she was bullied because her skin was very dark. So the main Indian journal was writing, isn't she too dark to become Miss America? And she received tons of, there was Twitter at that time, she had to cancel her profile. And even her family said, oh, you put the shame on our family being too dark and becoming Miss America. Can you imagine? So with Nina, we went back to India, to different schools, to interview boys and girls. Are you using skin lighting creams? At the beginning, everybody says no, but then we found out people who are destroying their faces. Girls who tried to commit suicide because they were too dark. So, and there was a cream, and Garima knows this story. She said, you are behind that, yes. So there was this cream called Fair and Lovely. It was a cult cream in India. You could see everywhere, by Unilever, everywhere Fair and Lovely. So only white is beautiful? Is it true? So after the filming, started the COVID, so we couldn't do the proper editing. Now it's ready, it will be out in a few months, maybe on Netflix, we will see where. But we decided to make a campaign, an impact campaign with Nina, and I made the videos out of the documentary. It gained millions of people signing the petition, and at the end, Unilever decided to change the name, no more Fair and Lovely. And then also L'Oreal decided to remove the white skin thing, and L'Oreal made an ethics committee inviting Nina to be part of it, and Johnson & Johnson changed the names, at least not to say that only white is beautiful. So how we can make an impact. So that's impact for change. And coming almost to the end, because about Women of Faith for Peace, Nuha will speak about this strong experience, but film and peace. Peace and the Seven Art was the title of our meeting, and I said there are 3 points we have to work on. First, we can create a different narrative. you said, Mina, how we can create an independent narrative. And we have the responsibility of creating this different narrative. Second, to give voice to the voiceless, as with the podcast, as with the students, as with the films. There are so many hidden stories. We do have the responsibility of telling these stories. If we don't, we are lacking. We are missing something. So we have this strong responsibility. And third is very important because we have we as filmmakers, as journalists, we can create a common ground. We can create a friendship. We can establish a relationship with the people from conflict areas within ourselves. As I said at the beginning, we are a minority, but if we link together, if we network, if like you organize events like this, if we are together, we can make the change, and we will be ready when there will be a little hole in the political, crazy thing. When there is a little hole, we will be ready to fill it with harmony, with peace, with coexistence, saying that differences are not a wall, but differences are the richness of the world. So please let us stand together with our sisters, our women from Iran. Raise all your energy for them. We are trying so much with women filmmakers in these days to create the fourth of the points to make a peaceful revolution, change there. So cinema together for peace. Thank you.
Thank you. So Nuha, Farran Tanous, she's married to Tsiarta. I like your biographies that you talk about your families, husband and children. So she's mother to Janit and Camille, and she's a Christian Israeli Palestinian, attorney at law, board member in governmental public organizations and non-profits. So Nuha has a vast experience in running non-profit organizations and fundraising. She speaks Arabic, Hebrew, English and French, and she will be on stage right now. Yes, to tell us what is the goal of all these endeavors and running this non-profit, so many non-profit organizations.
Okay.
And why non-profit?
Okay.
Yes, it's another issue.
So let me start by saying I'm the expert of conflicts. 80 years of the land of conflicts, a land that was promised to two nations without having, anything to do with it. People who were living for 80 years together, for hundreds of years together on the same land, suddenly each one of them got the promise that they will own the land, they will manage that land, the Jewish nation and the Palestinian nation. The British, who were the mandates of that land at that time, promised the land for two nations. And since then, we have been living through the circle of violence, the circle of conflict. Now, going through that and asking the right questions. Anna, no one for 80 years has stepped out of the circle of violence and asked the right question. Why are we fighting? How did we start fighting? Who's the cause of our fights? Nobody. We are fighting and fighting and killing and fighting and even abusing the word that's meaning peace, that means peace. Today, if you mention the word peace in my country, you're the enemy. If as an Arab, as a Palestinian, if I say I want to live in a peaceful reality, then I am not an Israeli, okay? Because I'm for the Arabs, I'm against the Jews. So it's a very complex. Even when I come to define my identity as an Israeli, it's completely complex. You say, I'm a Cypriot Greek, or I'm a Greek and I'm a Cypriot. Italian, you're Italian. That's it. For me, I have to stand up and say, well, I'm an Israeli, I'm an Arab, but an Arab that doesn't belong to the Arab world because I'm not a complete Arab. I speak Arabic. I'm Palestinian. But oftentimes we are mistaken that Arabs are only Muslims. We are Christians. Okay? We are the first Arabs. We came before Islam. We were there, the Arabs were there before Islam. So Christians are Arabs, and today we are also Israeli. I acknowledge the fact that I am Israeli today, okay? But 80 years ago, my ancestors were not Israelis. They had to live the trauma that you are living today, okay? My father-in-law, he was deported out of his village. He had to see his closest friends at the age of 10 being blown up by planes and their brains spreading all over him. And he had to live through it for 86 years now. Nicosia. Nicosia is segregated. It's divided by checkpoints. Imagine this is our reality for 80 years. For most of my life, up until 7 years ago, I lived in Jerusalem. You walk in Jerusalem and you see the segregation everywhere. You walk in Jerusalem and you notice even there, when there is no borders, that there is complete segregation, okay? Checkpoints, soldiers are all over the place. The city is completely segregated. Arabs, Jews, and religious Jews, okay? So there's like small communities living in one big city. A city that needs to belong to all, yet it doesn't belong to anyone because everyone is fighting. And why they are fighting? For nothing. For nothing. For nothing. Segregation. Segregation is something that we are chained with. Segregation, fear of the other. We are talking always about peace and coexistence, yet how do we coexist when we do not recognize the right to exist of the other? The other who doesn't think like us, like me. There is a truth, yes, but truth is not something that's ideal, complete. There are different types of truth. I was taught when I went to law school that truth is something very relative, okay? And I was very depressed and frustrated to learn that truth is relative because I believed that there's one truth. I was taught that there's truth. But truth is relative because your truth is very different than my truth. And when it comes to living together, our truths need to work together, need to reconcile together. So, how do I coexist? It's only by recognizing the right for the other to exist, to accept the right for the other to think differently, okay? We can argue, we can fight, but yes, we care. And we need to respect that right of thinking differently, that living differently doesn't mean that I'm your enemy, okay? Now going back to the 80 years of imposed circle of violence by outside, how do you call it? Outside the influences, yeah. Think, as Mina has said, governments, they gain a lot out of creating the segregation, these different narratives. What we normal people on a daily basis want is to live in peace, okay? I don't think that the Turkish mother who's living on the other side of the island, just like a few steps away from here, wants something different than the Cypriot mother who's living here. She wants to live in peace. She wants her children to grow in peace, to have a good living, to work, to love. Normal. We want to live quietly. Now, then comes a narrative that teaches us, that changes us from our hands, from our necks, from our minds, that changes our mind, that tells us that this other is my enemy. But if you release yourself out of these chains and step outside for a little bit and think. Just think and ask the question, is this right? Is this true? Can I change this? You'll discover that yes, because I want to live. I want to be free. Respect, education for respect. We teach our kids to respect, yet do we teach them to respect the other who thinks differently than us? No. Often not. It's really hard, it's really complex. Reality bites, but again, it's what we want to do with our reality. What do we want to acknowledge? In order to change, we need to acknowledge our reality. We need to acknowledge the fact that we want to live together. It's like a sick person. The first step to healing is acknowledging that you're sick, because then you'll start taking the treatment. You accept that you need to be treated. Now, accepting the other, accepting that we need to coexist and live together is the first step to healing. Woman of Faith has been an incredible journey for me. Leah, when starting this group, has given me the opportunity to go through a journey of self-discovery. I remember coming the first year over than 10 years ago and standing in front of everybody on a podium like this and starting to define myself. And it was very hard for me to define myself because normally on public speaking, when I used to speak in public, I used to speak about myself for work, what I do for nonprofits. For the first time, when I stood in Women of Faith, I had to face the mirror and stand up and say, I am Nuha. And to look at myself and see how I define myself, how I see my identity. And it took me a long time to put the right pieces of puzzle together. It has offered me the journey to reconnect and collaborate with women in order to change. You asked me about nonprofits. I worked for over than 23 years for the YMCA, the international organization, YMCA. I worked in the States. I'm a board member on different charities. Also, I did a lot of film working in the past with young students. We did movies, short documentaries that students used to do on their personal identities. Personal identities meaning what doesn't relate to politics. Things that they share together on a daily life, and it hasn't got to do anything on politics. So basically, going back, I want to say that in order to change, you need to be courageous, okay? You need to take a step back, release yourself out of the circle of violence, look at yourself inside, what we really want, release all the chains that you have been tied to, and say, I really want to change. I don't want this segregation. I don't need it. Educate their children, your children, that freedom of mind starts with freeing yourself from what you hear from outside. Always question and see what it means right for you. Thank you.
The last speech for today is about press and media, and I invite the Greek journalist Saia Tsaousidou. She's president of the Greek section of the Association of European Journalists and also re-elected to the presidency of the International Board of Association of European Journalists. Thank you. Saia,
I'm very touched from all the speeches. I'm very glad also because I met these beautiful women. I didn't know them, but they will become friends of mine from now on, and we will cooperate. And men, of course, but today we are talking about women. And you know that we need men, but you also need women in your life. You can't stand without us, eh? So things are not easy for us in every section. We have to fight more than men in journalism, in film, in public sector also, and private. So we have to do more and to prove ourselves every day. And we have to fight for what we want. So I was very touched. And as president of the association that I newly re-elected, I always talk with my colleagues, and I want to give a message that only with education we can have a better world. That's why I believe in education, not only the children, but also the young journalists. Then we can have better journalism. So we organize often seminars about European issues, not only about corruption, about democracy, about things that we didn't have to discuss these days. But you see, it's important. And Nikos talk about democracy and peace. We asking for the για το δεδομένο.
For the fact.
For the fact.
Already given.
Yes. Yes, it's not fact. So, my presentation, it will be about the stereotypes in. Θα το βλέπω εκεί. Όχι. So, art is one of the greatest, most important and most central features of human civilization. We see it pursued in all the latitude and longitude of the earth in every period of history by all kinds of civilizations. Accordingly, women constitute about half of the human population. Nevertheless, in many societies, they have been treated as inferior to men, devalued and dehumanized. But the woman's relationship with art is not a simple story of sexism. Even when they are present, women are often portrayed and circumscribed in subordinated ways in traditionally feminine stereotyped roles, such as non-professionals, homemakers, wives or parents, and sexual gatekeepers. Art is a mirror that reflects the values and principles, morals and customs of the culture that produced it, and so through the depiction of women in art, we can see how people have dealt with femininity and the female form over time. First, be a woman, as a mother and creator, as an object of male sexual desire, and as an autonomous human being. Frances Marion, the highest paid screenwriter at the time, earned her first Oscar in 1931 for The Big House, starring Mary Pickford. In 2002, Halle Berry became the first black woman to win the Best Actress Oscar for her role in Master's Ball. Who said that phrase? Fame brought me so much unhappiness. That was Brigitte Bardot, years after she retired at the age of 39, mulling her experiences as one of the world's great symbols. She has allegedly attempted suicide in the age of 25. Women can respond alone to an ever-present struggle for the recognition of their place in society, culture, history, acting, artistic production. Jodie Foster said, "The film industry in which I have been working for 74 years old, 47 years, always made me to fight double to win my place like a co-star. Men hire men in the film industry. Only 30% of women are working in the film industry." In 1980, Sherry Lansing became president of 20th Century Fox, putting women in positions with considerable decision-making power. The cinema creates patterns. The cinema, the media, even the children's series that we watch every day create patterns and life attitudes. Why would a children's series have the main character have a very rich developed chest while the movie is about small children? Sexism in the film industry affects women long before they become adults. It also invades children's programming and instills stereotypes into young girls' minds. Female stereotypes are everywhere, and especially in the world of the seventh art. The role of the women reflects the role that the male-dominated philosophy has placed her in society. Two sides of story then and now. She is the poor, not but beautiful girl who, in order to escape from her insignificant life, goes to on the hunt for the rich groom who will ensure her a beautiful and comfortable life. 100% in the most of the time is 30% nude. She is the rich, multitask woman, but always nude, almost 70% in front of hungry male eyes. Let's see a photo of Pamela Anderson. Then, how do you remember Pamela Anderson? Pamela is too old now for the film industry. It took off in the 90s and became a sex symbol of every male fantasy. But where is she today? Unsolicited. She lost her huge fortune because after Baywatch, she didn't make the right choices, and today she went bankrupt. What about all the other Pamelas in the film industry? Why is AIDS a problem for women in cinema? No one offers her even a small role, and she is not the only one. Ageism is a big and brutal kind of racism, not the female actor experiences today. As soon as they mature, get older, they are automatically deemed unsuitable for the film industry, which is constantly looking for new protagonists. Other stereotypes also hurt their potentials, like seeing female characters only being mothers while the fathers have careers and hobbies. When young people start believing in these stereotypes early in their lives, they consciously shape their life goals and self-esteem around the societal expectation they believe to be true. From Tom Cam Top Gun to Lara Croft. Women in leading roles are 4 times more likely to appear nude in films than men, according to a research that used the 56 highest grossing films of 2018 in 20 countries. And the Oscar goes, only 7 women have ever been nominated for Best Director with an Oscar. Since its inception, the award has been given to 78 actresses. Katharine Hepburn has won the most awards in the category with 4, followed by Frances McDormand with 3. With 17 nominations, Meryl Streep is the most nominated in the category, resulting in 2 wins. My name is Bond, James Bond. This is the new James Bond. It's the first time in history of James Bond that a black woman and a black woman will be a James Bond protagonist.
Interesting.
I'm strong, such a woman. April Seifert, PhD, a social cognitive psychotherapist, told, the more strong women we see in films and other places, the more our brains will start to automatically associate strength as a feminine trait, and as a result, the more women will be treated as strong, equal members of society. Men and women in film industry are equal. See how nude is the woman, and men get better payment. We know that. 1 in 4 had a woman producer in film industry. Only 1 to 10 had a woman on the writing team. Why? 0 had a woman director. That starting to change now. What are the benefits of having more women behind the cameras? By placing women in director's chair, a ripple effect is creating for employment of more women behind the scenes. When women direct films, they disrupt traditional hiring patterns, counteracting the windscreen and ceiling intractable bias, and that has favored male networks. Because women brings a perspective that values not only competition but also collaboration to organization and teams, because feminine values are an operating system of a modern social open economy, and with women's leadership we can improve not only society but business as well. Sheryl Sandberg, this is in Facebook, founder and board chair, because the world needs feminine and masculine traits to solve problems of the world. The world needs women to link more than ever to economically thrive and become more sustainable and peaceful. Είναι πολλά, γι' αυτό τα περνάω πιο γρήγορα. Developing the environment that enables women to have a full and equal voice in our institutions, enterprises, and public electorate is easy, logical, low-hanging fruit. It improves everything and will form a society that enables us to listen to the other important voices, specifically those of other ethnicities and generations. And before I end, I want to say that we have the European Parliament, the European Commission, who is fighting about the equal payment of not only in film industry, between men and women. We know that 9 out of 10 European Europeans, women and men, think that it is unacceptable that women are paid less than men for the same work or work of equal value. Majority of European workers is in favor of the publication of average wages by job type and gender at their company. The gender pay gap is a symptom of more structural imbalances between men and women in economic representations, access to education and household care responsibilities. Women are still underrepresented and undervalued in position of economic decision making. A large majority of scientists, engineers, and skilled technical workers are men. Women disproportionately bear the duties of household and child care, with 90% of the formal care workforce made up of women and 7.7 million women out of employment because of care responsibilities. I think that this has to change, and this year, I think a month ago, Vera Jourova, who is the Vice President for Values and Transparency, and Helena Dalli, the Commissioner for Equality, said, "Equal work deserves equal pay. This is a founding principle of the European Union. Solving the injustice of the gender pay gap cannot come without change to the structural imbalances in society. That is why this Commission doubled down efforts on gender equality and the root causes of pay inequality. We are now in the final steps to see gender balance on corporate boards becoming a reality across the EU. We have already put new rights in place for women and men to have more choice and to better share caring responsibilities and work. And we count on the member states to up their game on accessible, affordable and high quality early childhood education and long-term care prerequisite to support women's participation in the labor market. We need to empower women so that they can fulfill their potentials. That's my speech, my role here, but I believe in unity, I believe in synergies, and only if we, the women, can be together and spread out our voices, and which is the best way to do this? By film. And as we hear I don't remember from the first, I think from you it was, that, or no, Petra, also you say about that. A picture, a photo can say more things than
1,000 words.
Yes,
1,000 words.
yes. So let's make a film about what we feel we want to show to the people, and let's make it together.
Yes, bravo. This is what I believe in collaborations and co-productions. So let's see how we are going to collaborate with Europe. Michalis Karkatsanis is here. He can set up. Maybe we can have 1 minute break to